A listomania. Think less but see it grow.
Hello everybody, it's the Gnome and welcome to another 10 for 12 for June 2017, and I am very excited because I really feel that this is going to be somewhat educational for some of you. This is going to be a movie-themed 10 for 12, and I am joined once again by a fellow YouTuber. Her name is Lauren, and she has an awesome channel name. It's called The Hollywood Party. She is a booktuber who is giving a very unique perspective on her channel. She talks about classics, and that's something that not that many booktubers really do at this stage. We're really still stuck in the modern day contemporary romance and contemporary fiction as well as YA, but there are very few people that are trying to branch out, and I really feel that we should be doing so because a lot of books have been written before Harry Potter. I'm hoping that that doesn't insult anybody, but it is true. And the same goes for almost all media, and that includes another thing that Lauren brings to her channel, and that is classic film and literature about classic actors in the golden age of Hollywood. And that is why the theme of today's 10 for 12 is going to be our top 10 favorite films that were released before 1975. Now, why have I chosen 1975? Well, a historic film was released in 1975 that changed the way that we went to the movies forever, and that was the very first official Summer Blockbuster, and it was done by Steven Spielberg, and the movie was Jaws. And it was also known as a blockbuster film because that was the movie that created those long lines that wrapped around the block for a local theater for people to go and see these amazing, big budget, exciting films. But before the blockbuster, it was a very different time. The movies were treated as much more of an art form rather than a big moneymaker, and there have been some amazing films, and thanks to me doing the Great Film Throwback Project, I have finally been seeing some of these classic films that I've always knew were great, but I just never had the time dedicated to seeing them. And the more I watch these amazing historic films, I feel so proud to have witnessed these grand spectacles and really call myself a true film appreciator. So, as always, this is going to be a blind box. I have no idea what Lauren's 10 choices are, but these are going to be my personal preferences, so if you see a movie that you love that you feel should be really ranked higher, understand that it's not because I feel that the movie is not good, but it's more of the impact that the film left me when I actually did see it. So we're going to start with the 1933 classic Duck Soup starring the Marx Brothers. I saw this movie very recently, and I thought that it was one of the funniest films that I have ever seen. And more so, it actually was a film that taken by an episode of one of my all-time favorite cartoons, Animaniacs, and gave me one of my all-time favorite episodes, and I didn't even know at the time that it was based on Duck Soup. It is hilarious, it is perfectly comedically timed, it also gave us some of the most legendary comedy bits that have been used in future films, as well as even Looney Tunes cartoons like the famous mirror scene with Groucho Marx, and it's just a delight. If you haven't seen Duck Soup, I highly recommend that you do. The next film is the 1952 musical Singing in the Rain. I know that I did review this movie very recently, but I did see it a couple of years back when I was actually still in college, and when Debbie Reynolds passed away, I felt it was only appropriate to watch it again and give you guys a review. It is one of the most feel-good films that I have ever seen. Gene Kelly, Donald O'Connor, and of course Debbie Reynolds were just absolutely wonderful. It is one of those truly feel-good films, and the fact that it's a musical makes it even better. It has some classic songs. It had some songs that I didn't even know were in it, but I did actually know what those songs were from other sources, and I feel that a movie really is impactful when other films and television shows and even songs in future generations actually use those as references for the basis. I always feel that it makes those films all the more special. So if you are fans of movies like La La Land and Mary Poppins and of course all those great other musicals and you haven't seen Singing in the Rain yet, you have to see Singing in the Rain. Number 8 is the 1972 mob classic The Godfather. Some consider it the greatest film of all time based on Mario Puzo's book and of course written brilliantly by Francis Ford Coppola, who actually was one of the people that went alongside George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and Martin Scorsese to really revolutionize movies forever. And The Godfather really was a different kind of film that gave us insight on the mafia film, because there had been gangster films in the past, but it is a fantastic drama, a fantastic cast including Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, and Diane Keaton, and James Caan. But this is a fantastic film. I mean, when its sequel even wins Best Picture at the Oscars, just like its predecessor, that says a lot about the franchise films, because it actually did become a trilogy. And I know that there are many people that are probably wondering, why is this at number 8 and not number 1? But again, not that this movie is bad, this movie is brilliant. Even though that I do feel that Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas is the better mob movie, this still is a fantastic film, and you really should see it if you haven't. Number 7 is one of my all-time favorite comedies from 1963, and it is the film It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. This stars some of the greatest comedians of the time, including Sid Caesar, Mickey Rooney, Buddy Hackett, Ethel Merman, Jonathan Winters, and the list goes on, along with a whole bunch of special cameos, including Don Knotts, Benny Hill, and the Three Stooges. It is such a funny film. It was the very first big-budget comedy that was ever made. Brilliantly directed by Stanley Kramer with an amazing score from Ernest Gold. You have to see this movie if you want to see the film that all the current modern-day comedies have truly been based off of. It is fun, it has excitement, it's so silly, and it really is one of the funniest films that I have ever seen in my life, and it really is a laugh a minute from the beginning to the very end. If you have not seen this film yet, please do. I guarantee you, you will not regret it. Number 6 is a movie that is near and dear to my heart, and it is the 1962 classic musical The Music Man, starring Robert Preston, Shirley Jones, and Buddy Hackett, and a very, very young Ron Howard. And the reason why I chose this film is because this is actually one of the very first films that I ever saw, period. And I love this movie. I'm really surprised that I don't own a copy of it yet, but I used to watch this movie days and days and days over and over and over again. Love the music, love the story. It's such a feel-good film, one of the best musicals ever made, and I highly recommend that you see this amazing classic film. Number 5 is a movie that I always thought was one of the greatest films of all time, but I never got to see it, and it's the 1942 classic Casablanca. This is a movie that really surprised me. I mean, I always knew it was a great film, but when I finally saw it, I just fell in love with this unbelievable film starring Humphrey Bogart. And what I never realized was that this is a film that was such a mark on film history. It is one of the most quotable films of all time. There's got to be about 6 or 7 lines that so many people use and so many people know, even if they've seen the movie or not. I mean, there's everything from "Play It Again, Sam," or "Louis, this could be the start of a beautiful friendship," "We will always have Paris." It is such an incredible love story, and I am not a big fan of love stories, and this one just sucked me in. I loved it from beginning to end, and I saw it recently again, and I just love this movie every single time I see it. I'm quite surprised with how short it is, but either way, it really is one of the greatest films of all time, a Best Picture winner, of course, and if you have not seen Casablanca yet, you will not regret it. It really is a wonderful film. Number 4 is an animated classic, and again, it's such an impactful film for me because it is one of the first movies that I actually ever saw in my lifetime, and it's the second classic from Walt Disney, the 1940 film Pinocchio. I adore this film. It is such a wonderful film that really encompasses the overall theme of Walt Disney and what he tried to bring to children and adults everywhere. "When You Wish Upon a Star" is the definitive Disney song. It really encompasses all of Disney, modern and classic, and it's a real-life lesson film for you as well, because it really shows you that you have to be a good person in order to get your dreams to come true. And if you haven't seen this amazing film yet, first of all I have to say is shame on you, but if you have seen it, I'm sure that you would probably agree that while it may not be your favorite, it definitely does send a very positive message, and it really is a magical film. Number 3 is the American Film Institute's greatest comedy of all time, so of course it has to be on my list, and that is the Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon and Marilyn Monroe film, Some Like It Hot. My mother begged me to see this movie when I was little, and when I finally saw it, I did not regret it. It is such a hilarious comedy, one of Jack Lemmon's greatest performances. Billy Wilder directed it, and he's one of my all-time favorite directors, and this movie was one of the first films to actually show men in drag. And it was done with perfect comedic timing and exquisite taste. It is just such a funny film, and it was actually the very first time that I ever actually saw Marilyn Monroe on a television screen. I always knew who she was when I was younger, but this was the first time I ever actually saw her acting, and it really is a fantastic film. You really should see this movie. It will make you laugh, and the last line of the film is without a doubt one of the greatest in film history. Not going to tell you what it is, you got to see it for yourself. Number 2 is another animated film, and it is the third Disney classic, and it is my all-time favorite Disney classic, and that is Fantasia. Fantasia is one of the most unique films ever made because it is animation played to music. And it shows you that music is what really has the power to drive a story. No dialogue is even needed. It's a couple of segments used with classic composership, and also the famous Sorcerer Mickey and the Sorcerer's Apprentice and the Dance of the Broomsticks. You really need to see Fantasia if you haven't. And this may not end up being your favorite Disney classic, but what I will definitely say is you will definitely remember it because it is so different, so unique, and that's why I feel it's one of the greatest Disney films of all time. And that leaves us to our number 1 film that was made before 1975, and for me, it is the 1957 Sidney Lumet directed 12 Angry Men, starring Henry Fonda. This movie is something that I cannot describe or rave about any more than I already have. I've already done a review for it, and this film to me is so incredible because of the fact that it's so much done with so little. It's a very small cast. This movie is a very low-budget film. It takes place in only 3 sets, and almost the entire film takes place in one room with 12 men sitting in it talking about the case of a man who is convicted of a crime, and it's their job to decide whether or not he is guilty or innocent. If you have not seen 12 Angry Men yet, you have no idea what you are missing. This is one of the most incredibly done films of all time. IMDb says it, people who have seen it says it, and I for one can say the same thing because it is just that incredible. And those are my 10 favorite films that were created before 1975. I appreciate the fact that you came to watch today. Lauren, thank you so much for doing this 10 for 12 with me. I'm looking forward to seeing your picks. And for all of you watching, I will see you in the next one. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. If you're new here and want to see more of what my channel has to offer, please click on the link to my last video, or hit that subscribe button to be kept up to date with all of my uploads. Content of all sorts is posted here quite often, so trust me, you do not want to fall behind. I will see you in the comments, and actions speak louder than words.